Hi guys, time for some Ryan on Gaming. This comes from John Little. He says, Ryan, would you be able to talk about how games have changed since the days of 3D platformers like Sly, Ratchet, and Jack, and say whether you think games have gotten better or not? Thanks. Thanks for the topic, John. Yeah, sure, I could talk about this for you. Why not? It seems reasonable. Have games gotten better or not? And more importantly, have they gotten better or not from specifically what you mentioned as 3D platformers, so like Sly, Ratchet, and Jack, like you mentioned. I'm just repeating the question at this point. I'm being very clear about it. I'm going to answer specifically your thing. I know I can kind of veer off with these topics and maybe go further back in terms of like, early classic 2D games versus how they are today and things like that. So I feel like it's easy to get in that sort of conversation. But the thing is, and I've always talked about this, I love 3D platformers a lot, and I would love for them to make a huge comeback and for a bunch of developers to release, some bigger budget, platformers and things like that. And I say it that way because as of recent, there's certainly 3D platformers, but they're more lower budget indie games, and there's no problem with that really. It's just that I miss them being more in the mainstream media. I miss having big publishers fund games like that. I miss having big developers work on games like that. Absolutely, I miss platformers a whole lot. It's just that, you ask, have games gotten better or not? And truthfully, I'm still in the camp where I'm not cynical at all. I do enjoy today's games, and I do think they have gotten a lot better. Even when I'm comparing them to one of my favorite genres, which is 3D platformers. Like, I would love to see more 3D platformers. I would love to see them make a major comeback. But I can't deny that I've had, an unbelievably large amount of fun with the, PS3 360 generation and going into PS4 and X1 and things like that, and the recent rise of PC, and I'm still enjoying. I'm really enjoying those big budget video games that are well, no matter what it is, whether it's Mass Effect and you got this RPG world where you're doing all this talking and you're doing all this talking. That's all you're doing in Mass Effect is talking. You know what I mean, right? You're this big game where you're building relationships and doing all these story elements and more shooter mechanics and things like that. I am enjoying first-person shooters. I can get a little sick of them every now and again, but when I do play them, I always enjoy the ones that I choose to play, because certainly I try and buy games that I know are going to be good for me and that I'm going to enjoy. I'm certainly in love with how a lot of big budget games are trying to tell stories. I've beaten this horse to death a billion times. You guys know me at this point. I love these rich modern games that are their visuals are outstanding and they're trying to tell a beautiful, heart-wrenching story or something like that. Like, I love that shit. I really do. So because those kind of games nowadays they put me in such a different place than 3D platformers did. There's like two different mindsets when playing those kind of games. 3D platformer, you're much more laid back. You're really just there for the ride, and it's just so easy, and it's just like good fun, and that's awesome, right? Which you might argue, like, why wouldn't you want that over the new shit? But, like, the new stuff I'm playing, and yeah, I'm having fun with it, but it's just, like, a lot of games nowadays can just give you this certain intensity when playing them. Like, if you really, like, don't joke about it, and you really just sit there and really kind of invest yourself in whatever game you're playing and whatever the world the developer's trying to, pull you into and the story they're trying to tell, you can really, like, kind of get into that shit. Kind of like, whether you're watching... like whether you're into the new Walking Dead season and you're so pumped up about it, or you go to a movie and, I don't know, you're maybe a little emotional about the ending or something like that. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, if you really kind of put yourself into it, games nowadays can really put you in a much different place than games could back then. So, when I was playing games like Jack and Sly, Ratchet, or any other 3D platformer you can think of, yeah, sometimes they could have kind of like a really good story that really pulls you in, and they have like a really interesting world or something like that, but like they're just nothing compared to like what you're typically seeing nowadays. Again, a lot of arguments can be made. Well, a lot of modern game stories have like flaws or something like that, plot holes, like because now that they're getting so realistic and so good, and since they're trying to be so what do you call it, more serious in a sense, you know what I'm saying? Because they're trying to go for that, they're more open to criticism, so to speak. Back then when you looked at 3D platformers, if they had a crap story, it was like whatever. It's like, who cares about the story? Because are the gameplay mechanics there? Is the game still really fun to play? Are there a lot of collectibles or something like that? Like the sort of contingency it's changing there. Now that the games are trying to be trying to be so many different things all at once. and they're trying to be one big experience package, a cinematic experience or whatever you want to call it, because they're trying to be those things, they're going to be judged that way too. So that's why you'll often see a new modern game come out, and you'll have a bunch of people in like a comment thread or whatever, like legitimately discussing the flaws they find with the story or something like that, or discussing endings and spoiler casts where people are talking about how they did or didn't like the ending and how it should or shouldn't have ended, which you don't see that, you didn't really see a whole lot of that with those games. But again, that's kind of what I like about games nowadays. I really like what they're doing, whether it's good or bad. I really kind of enjoy that experience. And again, this is coming from a guy who loves 3D platformers to death. I love them. I still replay them all the time. Some of my favorite 3D platformers I'll still play to this day whenever I find the time to do it. So, it's like having your cake and eating it too, I guess. But you ask me, do I think games have gotten better? Yeah, I do. I think they have gotten better. John, thank you so much for that topic. That was a really good one. If you have a topic and your name isn't John, or maybe it is John, I don't know your name. Unless you comment a lot, then I probably do know your name. But either way, no matter what your name is, no matter if I do or do not know you, submit a topic, because this show is breathing off of topics. It's the oxygen of this show, and I need it to keep breathing. I don't want to be dramatic about it, but if you don't submit topics, I might die. I don't know. I might die. The show might die. The show will die for sure. Will I die? I don't know. Want to stay hands off of that situation.